Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Okay. As you can see, I have a full complement of our public safety team, as well as executives and support right behind me, right with me every step of the way. And just as I thank you for being here, boy, I tell you, I'm so grateful to have them with me. Primary objectives today are getting our people what they need. We know they need food, water, cool air, and so we are moving forward with the full complement of additional resources on today. The Louisiana National Guard, as mentioned on yesterday, have stood up point of distribution sites in key areas in the city. And our city cooling sites are again up and running on today. We have device in terms of AC, charging, water, food at the following locations: the Treme Center, 900 North Villery; Cutoff, 6600 Bellegarde Street; Gernon Brown Recreation Center, 1001 Harrison Avenue; Milne Recreation Center, 5420 Franklin Avenue; Stallings St. Claude Recreation Center at 4300 St. Claude; Lyons Recreation Center, 624 Louisiana Avenue; Joe Brown, 5601 Reed Boulevard; Rosenwald Center, 1120 South Broad Avenue. Our pods are operational from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., both MREs as well as water. Joe Brown Recreation Center, I just gave that address, at 5475 Reed Boulevard. Mahalia Jackson Auditorium, 1451 Basin Street. We've already seen over 300 residents taking advantage of these resources that are available. They're driving up, they're walking up, they're biking up, and are receiving the resources. Coming online tomorrow at 12 noon will be UNO Lakefront Arena, as well as Franklin Avenue. Actually, we moved UNO Lakefront Arena to Wesley Barrow, the playground there, the ball field right at Southern University at New Orleans. Lyons Center, again, will come, it's online, but will be coming online for a pod on tomorrow as well. So a co-location of services there. Skelly Playground, 730 Vespasian Boulevard. Meals from 4 to 6 p.m. on today, both again at the Treme Center, the Cutoff, Gernon Brown, Milne, Stallings, Lyons, Joe Brown, and Rosenwald. These will continue to be functional throughout the day. Of course, 4 p.m., 6 p.m. this evening, and more to come as the days go on. Other pop-up meal locations that were very successful on yesterday, we're continuing that on today. Arthur Mundy Center, St. Roch Park, Harmony Oaks, and adding McDonough 35 on today. Those three previous locations mentioned, they were active on yesterday, being consistent on today. Now we know that we're in day 3. This is day 3 of post-storm recovery and really response. We're responding to the needs on the ground. And we are seeing tremendous progress each and every day, and expect to continue to see that throughout today. Very glad to hear the news from our partner Entergy, working very closely with the utility on that, and it's beginning again to see progress as reported, but you're going to hear more from Entergy following me, actually. We know that some parts of New Orleans East started to see power as early as 1 a.m. This morning. Again, we do anticipate additional progress there, but it will be gradual, incremental. But that's what we know. That's how it's always been. But seeing the progress sooner rather than later is absolutely a step in the right direction. Again, Miss Deanna Rodriguez with Entergy is here and will provide more information. Last night, as you know, was our first night under an official curfew that was signed by an executive order by me on yesterday afternoon, and of course being implemented thoroughly by Chief Ferguson and the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department in conjunction with our partners, Louisiana State Police, as well as the National Guard and the Sheriff's Office. And so we appreciate the collaboration, the unified command on that, and align with our anti-looting plan that was in place pre-storm. Unfortunately, hours after we made that announcement, we had one of our own, our NOPD officer, that was shot in the head, grazed wound. He's doing well. Went to visit him on last night, spirits smiling, laughing, but said, you know, hey, I'm going to stay put because we have in the hospital, and I know I don't have it at home, but not making light at all. Not making light at all about what happened to our officer. And so we will continue to monitor his progress and stay in close communication and contact with his family as we initiated on last night. I do want to thank all of our residents, all of our officers, all that showed love immediately once we understood what happened to our officer. So thank you again so much. Again, he is in stable condition, and we're praying for a full recovery. We have no reason at all to believe that our officer was targeted, as he was in an unmarked vehicle. So no reason there to believe, again, that he was targeted. The chief will provide additional information as it relates to what I've mentioned, even as it relates to our curfew efforts and anti-looting plan. At this point, again, this is day 3 of our response and moving forward in our recovery efforts. We need, again, to remain calm and also caution as it relates to all of our residents, ensuring that public safety is our top priority. You're going to hear also from Dr. Emily Nichols from our New Orleans EMS, who will talk more specifically, as well as our Chief Nelson, but specifically about the impacts of carbon monoxide and the deaths that we have experienced in our community in regards to this. People are hot, we know it. We know that people are tired, but we have to continue to remain vigilant. And we know, again, this is day 3. There is a smart way, of course, to be safe when operating generators, and we do have our experts who will speak to this following me. It's also important to remind everyone that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. And as we are operating and opening up cooling stations and utilizing our RTA fleet, even our ferry as a cooling site for residents, PPP is required, but also accessible if that is not the case when you arrive. We know, again, that COVID is with us, so it does require us, again, to take cautions as necessary. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to segue out. I'm going to ask Chief Sean Ferguson to come up. You're going to hear from multiple partners, department leaders, and of course we'll come back for questions and answers, and we'll take them accordingly. So right now, Chief Sean Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start with, first of all, an update on our officer. I'm giving you his information. He is a 16-year veteran of the New Orleans Police Department, currently assigned to our Special Operations Division. He is Senior Police Officer Cedric Davalier. So the mayor mentioned his status. He did sustain a major graze wound to the back of his head. He is in good condition. He's in high spirits. This is currently an active investigation being conducted, being led by our Force Investigation Team, FIT. With that being said, we do not have any information or reason to believe that he was targeted as a police officer. But nevertheless, we're going to investigate this thoroughly, as we do with any investigation that we are conducting. But we do not have any reason to believe that he was targeted as a police officer, because he was in fact in an unmarked vehicle. I want to thank the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department for their due diligence and their commitment and their dedication during these trying times. You know, losing one of our brothers pre-storm and going through this storm, and then another one of our officers being victimized, can cause some serious mental stress on our officers, as well as their family situations during this time. So I just want to recognize them at this point in time. We continue to engage in our active anti-looting deployment in partnership with Louisiana National Guard, in partnership with the Louisiana State Police, as well as our criminal sheriff's office. And I want to thank Sheriff Guzman for having his team out there on the streets with us. Just last night we made numerous looting arrests, and his team made several of those arrests right along with us. So we continue to be actively engaged. And with that being said, I have to remind you that we are under a curfew signed off by our mayor yesterday, and we are actively engaging from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. with regards to anyone who is on the streets of New Orleans during these hours. It is unsafe, and as the reason for this curfew, we still have many power outages. As we are seeing some hope, there's still some power outages, and there are many passageways that are still blocked. So it is totally unsafe. And I would like to encourage each and every one to please remain calm and vigilant, as we have responded to several calls at some of our fueling stations, because tempers have risen and patients have kind of run thin. We need you to be vigilant. We are all trying to get through this together. So please show a little compassion and empathy towards one another as we are all going through this together, and we will continue to do our due diligence. But once again, curfew is in effect, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. until further notice. Please stay at home. And one other thing, I want to inform some of our delivery programs, our delivery businesses. As we know, many of our medical needs citizens do require some medical assistance. They have orders, placed some orders online, and we do know that some of our delivery services will have to be on the streets after 8 p.m. So we are conscious of that. I want them to know that we have amended this curfew so that we can allow them to make those deliveries to those who need those deliveries during the after hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And just to that, it's just clarifying we've clarified it for those making deliveries like UPS, FedEx, and the like. So I'm going to ask now Dr. Emily Nichols to come forward.
Good afternoon. So our mayor, as well as our medical first responders, recognize that your public health is a part of public safety, and we recognize that extended periods of heat and chronic illnesses have caused an increase in our call volumes. Our ENTs and our medics, in addition to the firefighters, have been responding to volumes that are about 185% above our norm. We are doing that in conjunction with several surge ambulances, and we are needing the needs of our residents at this time. However, we are recognizing that there are some incidents unique to hurricanes, particularly related to carbon monoxide poisoning, that we have responded to over the last 24 hours. It's important to recognize that carbon monoxide is not something that you're going to taste or see. It is something that will cause very minor symptoms all the way to death. So the symptoms will look sometimes like headache or nausea or fatigue, all of the things that we also experience during times of dehydration, or certainly if one is intoxicated or just generally fatigued. So we do need to stay very vigilant. Chief Nelson is going to speak more to generator safety, but particularly if you're using a generator in your home or near your home, it really should be far away from your home, because there is a chance that some of those carbon monoxide fumes are getting into your home and affecting all of us. Also, check on your neighbors. If you haven't seen someone in a few hours, don't just assume that they're very tired just because of the heat. It truly could be carbon monoxide poisoning, and it is lethal. So please stay vigilant. Please use generators as instructed, and please check on each other. Also, certainly don't forget that COVID has not left us, as the mayor said, and so we recognize it's hot and it's hard to wear a mask in the heat. We certainly understand that, but please be vigilant. If you're around persons that display any symptoms that are concerning for illness, or if you're in large crowds, if you're out trying to fulfill some of your daily needs, just keep in mind and try and take a mask with you. We want you to be safe. We want to get through this all together, and we want you to come out on the other end without COVID. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols. And I'm going to ask Colin Arnold if you can come at this time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. New Orleans Emergency Operations Center continues to be active 24/7, coordinating public safety, infrastructure, and human services in response to the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. As the mayor mentioned, we've coordinated many resources to be made available to residents still in New Orleans today. Clearly, that is our objective and our priority. The Louisiana National Guard is operating 2 drive-through points of distribution with water, meals, and some ice has shown up. We're waiting on more ice. They're located at Joe Brown Park and Mahalia Jackson Theater Armstrong Park Complex. We'll be opening 3 more tomorrow at noon. That's just a late start with the supply run, but they'll be, after tomorrow, they'll be operating the same hours, the normal hours of 8 to 6. But those 3 tomorrow opening at noon are Lions Center uptown, Skelly Rupp Field over in Algiers, and as the mayor mentioned, we were going to go to UNO Lakefront Arena. We've pivoted and gone to Wesley Barrow across Leon C. Simon. There's a lot of utility work going on and staged at UNO Lakefront Arena. We didn't want to affect that. So we'll be setting up a pod at Wesley Barrow Stadium field over there right across from Suno. NORD, a great partnership, has opened 8 recreational centers for cooling, device charging, and water for 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. These sites will have meals from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. with the support of World Central Kitchen, who's been on the ground with us since the beginning of this, and also was a huge partner with us at the beginning of COVID, and is just a terrific organization. And then beginning tomorrow, we've hooked up with the Salvation Army, and they're going to be serving lunch at these sites as well. I would like to say this about the cooling centers, if I can. We, for the first time, activated what was a priority for the mayor. We have called back reserve employees, people not typically employed by the city of New Orleans who are not typically involved in disasters with us. I mean, all of us up here, this is part of the game. This is what we do. But we do have a lot of employees who are important as well and have skills and abilities and are in the city right now. We were able to reach out to them on short notice, and they are working these cooling centers, and I really want to acknowledge that, and I hope that our residents and people who visit acknowledge and give them some love, because this is a program that we can build on. I'm really just pleased, and it's just fantastic to have that ability to bring in some people who are willing to come in and help us. We also have our NOLA Ready Volunteer Corps there as well. A lot of our volunteers evacuated, of course, because that's, was their choice, and we were still able to gather a sizable volunteer force to help out with this as well. Regional Transit Authority has been providing buses all around the city to offer cooling to residents. If you see an RTA bus, you can get on that bus, take a rest, cool off. Same thing with the ferry at Algiers Point. We received our initial shipment of tarps today, and we're going to be coordinating with the New Orleans City Council to set up tarp distribution to those who need them for their roofs. We'll provide more information as soon as we have that set up, but we're going to co-locate that probably at some of these NORD centers that we're using, and kind of trying to make a one-stop shop for everybody that's coming in for some services. You will need to provide your name and an address to receive a tarp. They're tight with tarps on people who actually have roof damage that need them. New Orleans Health Department is working with state and federal authorities to provide health care to coordinate assistance for residents with medical needs. For more information on available pharmacies, dialysis, oxygen exchange, and more, you can call 311 and be connected to our special needs call center, which is 24/7. Due to the ongoing data issue at City Hall, ready.nola.gov is still down, but we anticipate that being up today. but we are still able to communicate via text and on social media. You can text NOLA Ready to 77295 or follow us on social media at NOLA Ready. I'd like to just provide a quick update on recovery for individuals impacted by Hurricane Ida. As we've communicated, President Biden has approved a major disaster declaration that includes Orleans Parish. So that automatically turned on FEMA individual assistance for residents. Any resident impacted by Ida should apply for assistance by going to disasterassistance.gov, that's disasterassistance.gov, or call 800-621-3362, 800-621-3362. As with all of these, and we've been through some of these before, save your documentation, document your damage, save every receipt you have. Whether you think it's important or not, save it if it's a piece of paper. Any work you've done, any accommodations you've paid for, save all the receipts for those. There have been rumors going around that individuals are being denied. FEMA has asked us to let everyone know, and we have FEMA here, Jerry's going to speak in a minute. They've asked to relay to you that if you receive a letter indicating your application was incomplete, that does not mean it was denied. It simply means that there might be a portion of your address wrong or a document missing, something similar. We've all been through this before. Just make sure you understand that does not mean you're denied. It just means it's incomplete. Also, from DCFS, all residents impacted by Ida can pre-register for DSNAP, which is the disaster food stamps, by texting LADSNAP to 898-211. LADSNAP to 898-211. And if you're an existing SNAP recipient, you're able to use your food benefits now to purchase hot food or prepared foods. And that's all I have. And again, I really appreciate our employees, reserve employees who were called into action and are working right now at these cooling centers trying to assist our residents.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Colin. Thank you, Colin. And I'm now going to ask Mr. Tyrell Morris, our Director of Communications District.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. So again, the 911 network is active and is strong in the city of New Orleans, but I do need to let you all know that the various cell phone providers are making repairs to their networks. So you may find some intermittent issues connecting to either 911 or 311. They usually last for a short amount of time. So if you do have an emergency, 911 should be your first attempt to us. If you're unable to connect to 911, hang up and call again. Usually the second attempt will get you to us. Yesterday, though, we did have about a 30-minute outage on 311. We were able to identify the issue and get it reconnected, and so now 911 and 311 has been restored fully in the city of New Orleans. That includes texting. You can still now text 911 and 311. As a reminder, life-threatening emergencies to be reported to 911. So as power is restored and you're starting your generators, if you smell natural gas in your home, that is an emergency. Please dial 911 and we'll get units out there to check the area. Also last evening, the first time in the agency's history, at 7:27 p.m., we did lose generator power at OPCD at our main campus. Our facility is incredibly redundant. We planned for this, so our backup battery power kicked in. We are down for about 57 minutes. I want to take a moment to thank our many partners locally, our state partners, and our federal agencies who had assistance heading our way within 5 minutes of making the call that we were on out of generator power. But our contractors arrived on scene, identified the issue, and in 57 minutes we were back in business. So that's the message for today. Again, the systems are strong, and our network continues to be supported by increased repairs to the cellular network. Landlines still remain active today. So if you call 911 from a landline, we've never had an issue with landlines. So that is always, if a cell phone doesn't work, you can get to a landline. By all means, that those remain active. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyrell. And I'm going to ask our Sheriff, Marlon Gusman, and following the Sheriff will be our Fire Chief.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to give you a quick update. The courts, as you know, are closed. However, judges are still coming over. They are doing bond settings as well as releases. We evacuated all of our inmates since noon on the 28th. We've had 55 arrests. Some of those have been released already. We're also releasing people from the DOC facility. So all of that's still in place. It's all going according to our plan. And we're continuing our efforts to aid the police department and everything else that we have to do to maintain our operations. So, Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Chief Nelson?
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Nichols talked about it earlier, but I want to reinforce carbon monoxide is a killer. It's a silent killer, and it's killing people right now. Right? So we need to really be cautious. You hear about it's the smoke, not the fire that kills people. Well, it's the carbon monoxide in the smoke that slows the people down and knocks them out so the smoke can kill them, right? Carbon monoxide binds with the blood, and it stops your blood from processing oxygen. So you get tired, you get sleepy, you lay down wherever you are, right? And right now, we've already seen a couple of major incidents with multiple people having to go to the hospital because of carbon monoxide poisoning from generators. So be very careful with these generators. 900 people from 2005 to 2017 died from carbon monoxide poisoning as a result of portable generators. I went to Home Depot this morning, and everyone that came out had a generator, right? So there's a lot of people out there not familiar with portable generators. They don't know how to use them. Read the instruction manual, familiarize yourself with them, learn the limitations, right? How much of a load can it sustain? You don't want to overload your generator, and then you're away from home and it causes a fire, it shorts out a wire. It's just a terrible situation, so be careful with that. Only put your generator outside, right? People want to keep their generator covered so the rain doesn't damage it, but it needs to be at least 15 feet away from your house. Not inside of a shed, not under a carport. It needs to be far away from your house so that those carbon monoxide gases don't come into your home and affect you while you sleep. The carbon monoxide, it's odorless, it's colorless, you can't smell it, you don't know it's there. It tends to build up on the floor, so you're going around all day, you don't notice it. When you go to sleep, it keeps you asleep. Right? And then we get the call because a neighbor notices that nobody's responding from the house, but they know a bunch of people were there. We had 12 people reported to the hospital today, transported to the hospital today with carbon monoxide poisoning. 4 children and 8 adults, 3 people in critical condition. We're still getting updates on their status. So we don't want anyone else to have to go to the hospital because of carbon monoxide poisoning. When you refuel your generator, make sure it's cool. Refueling the hot generator, the fumes are all in the air around you, they can ignite and burn you. So make sure your generator is cool before you try to reignite it. Be cautious with the extension cords that you run into your generators. Only use rated heavy-duty extension cords to run the power. Do not wire your generator into the electrical panel in your home, right? You may have friends who are electricians or know a little bit about electricity, and they know how to wire it to your electric panel. It causes a very, very dangerous situation, not just for you, because it could energize your neighbors' electricity. It causes a danger to the utility workers. It causes a danger to our guys when they come if you have any kind of issue. So just don't do it. If you don't have a transfer switch already wired to your home, only use that portable generator with extension cords. Lastly, I'd just like to recognize all of the firefighters out there that responded through the storms. Some of them still don't have power in their stations. They don't have air conditioning, but they're out there, they're responding, they're ready to work, and they're ready to do the job. And I also want to recognize the responders that you don't see: Public Works, Property Management, DPW, Park and Parkways, the responders that are out there supporting us that you don't see doing a tremendous job. So your city workers, your first responders are on the job. They're here to keep you safe, so just help us out. Be careful with those generators, right? And be careful about the carbon monoxide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chief. All right, and I want to ask Deputy CEO Ramsey Green.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Just a few updates on the status of our infrastructure here in the city. Really, our goal right now is to make this city operable for our residents who are here, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000, and get our city ready for the folks who need to come back, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000. And we're going to do that, and we're doing it right now. And thank you, Chief Nelson, for talking about the folks who do this very complicated technical work in very dangerous situations at the moment. It's a humbling to be a part of folks from the Sewage and Water Board doing things to keep our sewer system going, the DPW parkways, and sanitation, clearing our roads, etc. By the end of a couple updates. One, we're not only recovering, but we're in the peak of hurricane season. We're keeping our eyes on the weather, and as such, we have so much debris out there. I cannot state this enough. There is so much debris out there that we have. We're only pushing it. Right now, what that means is we're cutting, removing trees that are down. We've resolved somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 major streets that have been completely impassable via trees. There are some trees that are still out there in the middle of the street laying down. Avoid them. Many of them are tied up with Entergy distribution lines, and the linemen and women of Entergy are working on those, so give them space. There's a tremendous amount of roof nails and debris in the streets. If you're driving around and you blow a tire because of the equipment out there, it's really hard to get a new tire right now. So drive slowly, evade all debris that's out there, only if you even have to be on the streets. On Friday, the Department of Public Works is planning to issue the notice to proceed for a contract for 15 to 20 vac trucks to begin sucking out all of the debris that is wafted into our subsurface drainage line. Thus far, we've cleared 3,000 linear feet of completely clogged drain line. We have 32 blocks have been cleared of debris. Debris, I want to be clear, will not be picked up until at the earliest next week. We're pushing it to the right-of-ways. If you're working on your home, take your debris, put it on the curb. We're going to push some messaging out about what the methods and structure of how that debris should be pushed out there. We've cleared 119 catch basins on day 3 of the recovery, fully vacuumed them. That's not just clearing the front of them. That's hopefully residents can step up and do that. Cleared another 59 manholes. We've placed stop signs at every major intersection surrounding both the pods, those sites where you can pick up food and water, and the cooling center. So if you're driving to those sites, follow those stop signs. Again, as a reminder, virtually none of our stoplights are functioning in the city, with the exception of the ones that have come on this morning. Every intersection, unless there is a functioning stoplight, which I can assure you there are few, if any, is a 4-way stop sign. Crews are removing and repairing down poles and streetlights as we see them. In terms of debris, we have 11 crews worked yesterday pushing debris on the sides of the roads. We have another 14 crews working today. Those are contracted debris crews that are coming in to do this work. Yesterday I mentioned we have limited trash collection starting tomorrow. More information will come out about that later this evening. But at the moment, we're trying to structure who's available and what our forces can do. At this moment, our sanitation contractors have very limited staffing, very limited access to power, and so we have to be really strategic when we can start picking up trash. Today, we're clearing the main routes of Esplanade, Orleans, Canal, Broad to City Park, St. Bernard, Jefferson, and Norman Francis. It's a lot of the Endymion/Zulu routes, ironically, as I read those. Contractors, no earlier than Tuesday for all active job sites. No earlier than Tuesday are our contractors going to start work. We're going to see where power is, but our contractors on active job sites throughout the city, if you were out of town and you left your job site, you were getting a lot of input from us saying, hey, come on down, clean it up, make it safe. Contractors should be doing that. If you do not see that, call 311, report that to us. Additionally, got a note from HDLC. If you have a damaged house in a historic district or a damaged building, don't wait for a permit to secure it from the elements. The city is going to be very accommodating to ensure that your building doesn't have any water incursion. And then finally, on City Hall power. Yesterday, you may recall, we had a transfer switch on the 11th floor. Transfer switch on the 11th floor, 500 kW generator, led down to a backup battery on the 3rd floor in information technology. Information technology is largely coming back online now. You can go on our website. Our information largely is on there. It's coming back. And we have an 800 kW generator that showed up late last night under state police escort, which is getting wired to City Hall. And it's kind of a race between Entergy and the generator to see which one will come on first. And finally, Sewage and Water Board, our drinking water is safe, remains safe, pressure is stable. Sewage and Water Board, by the end of the day today, we should be tracking to have 35 of 85 Sewage and Water Board sewer lift stations on by the end of the day. That's the goal, and those would be generator powered. But as the distribution center system comes back online, Sewage and Water Board lift stations come back online. But our message to the public is restrict your use of wastewater continuing as much as possible. We're going to get this city back in shape so folks here can move around, be safe, and enjoy what New Orleans is, and y'all can come home who are out of town as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask Ms. Deanna Rodriguez, Entergy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today's a much better day than when I was here a couple of days ago. So overnight, we overcame a huge hurdle. At approximately 1 a.m., Entergy crews turned on power for some customers in New Orleans East with generation supplied by the New Orleans Power Station. This is only the first step in bringing back power to the metro region. To date, as of about an hour ago, we have restored approximately 11,500 customers in the New Orleans area. The first customers to be restored were about 3,500, and it included houses in Little Woods neighborhood, as well as critical care customers, including the VA hospital and the New Orleans Fire Department. Lights came on around 1:02 a.m. I'm sure that was a happy day for those people that got their lights on. And this is the first step, again, in returning to normal. In the coming days and into the weekend, we're going to start seeing a lot of progress. And each day, we're going to do more. I need to mention, too, that the New Orleans Power Station was a big part of the solution in getting power to the city and up to the city. It was a combined solution. There was a transmission line that we were able to bring in from the east, and with the help of the New Orleans Power Station, which worked as it was designed to work, we were able to do this. The hurricane support that this particular NOP station provides is one of the major benefits, and it can generate power locally in the New Orleans area even when transmission lines are down, which is how we got into the situation that we did. While the transmission line was restored, coupled with NOPs are not large enough to power the entire city, this morning was a significant milestone. So power is delivered to neighborhoods where a connection was possible and where customers need it most, when customers need it most following a hurricane. I want to move on to restoration. In terms of the restoration, the way that it's working is we are moving from the New Orleans East area towards 9 miles. So we're trying to make a loop. We're going west around the city, and it will go from substation to substation. So we're not picking neighborhoods, we're following the flow of electricity, and the electricity has to go safely from substation to substation. There are 10 substations that are ready to serve customers. I also want to make sure that I share with everyone where we are in terms of damage assessment. So as we've been doing this and bringing power, restoring power to the area, remember we had to, when I was here last, we talked about the first step was to do the damage assessment. That was occurring all simultaneously with transmission, distribution, and generation. Good news is generation was up and ready to go. And so that worked out fine. There was not enough damage in our local to our local generators that allowed us or kept them away from working for us. The second piece in transmission is clearly where we sustained the most damage, and so that ongoing damage assessment is occurring. And then finally, our distribution damage assessment. I understand we're about 50% of the way through on distribution damage assessment. Just for a bigger picture, because this is a statewide issue, it's not just a New Orleans issue, I just want to share with you all sort of the how big this storm was and the damage that it caused with the numbers. So nearly 5,000 poles were damaged, 5,200 transformers, nearly 750 feeders were out, and then all this was around the significant damage. This has a huge impact And this is why we brought in over 20,000 people into the state of Louisiana to help us repair and restore power to everyone after this Category 4 hurricane. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't add to what I call our first responders. It's the line crew, the linemen, the people that feed the linemen, and all the folks, the 20,000 people, 20,000 plus people who have come to the state that are staying in hotel rooms, also dealing with COVID protocols. So remember, we are all having to do the same thing as everyone else. And I thank the police officers and the firefighters, and all the first responders. We are all working together on this, and it is a magnificent feeling to see all the folks that are working so hard with the trucks. If you see a lineman, say thank you. Thanks.
I watched that movie Lineman, and it gave me a great deal of respect. Thank you, Deanna. I also want, just to keep this going, we will hear from Jerry Ostaller, who is our representative of FEMA. I also wanted Dr. Keyshawn Webster to give just a brief update on our Juvenile Justice Intervention Center as it relates to our youth that will be returning back to the city of New Orleans. And then following Keyshawn, we'll hear briefly from our councilman, our councilwoman, Kristen Palmer, and then we'll go into questions and answers. Mr. Jerry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you've heard a lot of complex recovery. We're into the third day of a very intense period where we're trying to restore essential services to the city. But as you've just heard from Entergy, there are signs of recovery underway. And I'm here to also talk a little bit about what's going on with recovery. As of this morning, more than 53,000 households in Orleans Parish have registered for federal assistance. As a result of that, more than $5 million has already been approved in federal assistance that's on the way to these households to help them get started with their recovery. There are a couple of key things, though, I want to address this afternoon about this process of registering for federal assistance. The first thing that every household must do is submit their insurance claims, whether that be homeowners insurance, renters insurance, or flood insurance. You need to think of the assistance from FEMA as the last resort. Once all that insurance needs have been met, whatever is not covered from insurance, that then could be eligible from federal with federal assistance. This is very important. We are obligated by law not to duplicate any benefits that are provided by an insurance policy. And we are seeing here in Orleans Parish a very high percentage of households that are applying that have some form of homeowners insurance. Having said that, if you have serious needs that are not covered by insurance, we certainly want to hear from you. And I know Colin mentioned earlier how you can reach out to get in contact with us, and I'm going to repeat that information. First of all, we have our 800 number. Again, that's 800-621-3362. You can also do it online at www.disasterassistance.gov. And then there's the FEMA app that can be downloaded on your iPhone, where you can also register for assistance and then keep track of your application by creating an account. And we are seeing a very high percentage of households that are using the online method for registering, as well as the FEMA app. So that seems to be working very well. Again, the types of things that FEMA assistance can provide assistance with is moderate repairs to your home. Our assistance is not going to make that home fully repaired to the way it looked before Hurricane Ida, all our money will do, if it's not covered through insurance, is help make that home habitable, safe and habitable to live in. And this is a grant, okay? This is not something that is a loan or that needs to be paid back. It is a grant. The other thing I wanted to address is the issue of whether a household decided to evacuate New Orleans or not. That decision has no impact on a household's eligibility for federal assistance. Whether they decided to shelter in place here in New Orleans or leave the city, that will not factor into our determination for what that household would be eligible. I do want to say that we continue to work very closely with the mayor and her staff around the clock. There are thousands of FEMA employees who have been deployed to support the response and recovery efforts in Louisiana. They are making their way to New Orleans even as we speak. I expect to have presence in the cooling centers and at the FMS site at the Muriel Convention Center beginning tomorrow, and more are on the way. I'm very comfortable with our posture to support the extensive point of distribution operations that have begun today and will expand throughout the city, and we will stand by to provide any other assistance, whether that be in terms of commodities or generator support that the city may need if they submit or when they submit those requests up through the state. I just want to close by saying that, you've heard a lot about what the city departments are doing in the response. I want to remind everyone who is in New Orleans right now that all of you can play an important role in the response by listening to the local officials, by staying off the roads and allowing the important work that needs to be done to clear the roadways, to restore the power, to get the essential services back into the city, to enable that work to progress as quickly as possible. That's how each and every one of you can help in this response effort. And we certainly look forward and appreciate the partnership from the city and the professionalism of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Dr. Webster?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good afternoon. Just wanted to give you a brief update on JJIC. On August 27th, which was Friday, just before the storm, a decision was made ahead of the storm hitting to evacuate young people to safety with the assistance of the Department of Corrections. Now that we have gotten through the storm, the building is deemed suitable. We had no major damage, and youth are being returned. Throughout this process, we maintain contact with families and made them aware of this relocation. So we will be resuming normal operations beginning today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Council member?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the theme of today is obviously public safety, but personal responsibility is directly tied to that. And so I'm just really asking all the public on our way to and from all the distribution sites, the pods, the cooling centers, to again practice caution. We have seen a rise, as we know, from EMS and calls to service. We cannot keep stressing an overly stressed system. And when we get to these distribution centers and the pods and the cooling centers, we all appreciate that everyone is hot, that no one likes waiting in line for food or for water or for services. But I just would like everybody to remember that and have patience and grace with the people that are staffing these, because they are also under stress. They also are hot and tired, but they are in this for service, and we're all in this together. And so we want to be able to serve, to get through this, and we will get through this, and we just really appreciate everyone's patience and kindness. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you to all of our leadership that has participated in this press conference. You should also know that Colin spoke about our reserve employees that have come back to serve. As we all understand that we're public servants, and that was something that we initiated, particularly learning lessons from this pandemic. But also when thinking about that, it will allow the city to alleviate the pressures of our employees who have been on the ground for 5 days now. And so it is important. We're activating resources to have a comprehensive idea and knowledge about what the needs are of our employees, so that we can ensure that they're receiving the resources that they need at this time as well. As the council member said, we're all in this together, and we have to recognize the needs of those who we have depended on to respond and be prepared for this event that we're coming out of. But at any rate, I'm going to turn over to questions and answers, and we'll move through.
First, Sabrina Wilson with Fox 8.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question in terms of what do you need that you don't have, if anything, from FEMA? And then a second question for the representative
Okay.
about the transmission tower
Okay.
in Jefferson Parish and how that factors into the whole scheme of things in terms of widespread restoration.
So first point, Ms. Sabrina, in terms of a need, one that is a reoccurring need is the access to commercial fuel. We have made this request to FEMA that would provide residents an opportunity to get fuel. That continues to be an issue, and we're pushing that every step of the way, and hopefully we will see that on the ground sooner rather than later. But that first one, I would say, is commercial fuel. Miss Deanna?
And your question was about the transmission structure that fell, right? And that collapsed. That transmission, the transmission line that we're using to get power that is already in service and coming right now to New Orleans is coming from the east. It's coming from Slidell.
I understand that,
Okay.
but Canterbury serves more than New Orleans.
Correct.
So how does that factor into the broader, wide-scale restoration?
So our
And neighboring
That's right. Our system is redundant, and it has multiple transmission lines. So that is one of the structures that has affected that line, and we have 7 other paths. And so that's how our system is built. And so I am confident that we're still doing the damage assessment. Remember, I mentioned that transmission damage assessment is still taking place. And so once we understand even more, but we're building slowly. We have the workers available. We will be able to use other paths, and it's not that one structure is not going to cause us not to get power back sooner.
Thank you.
Derek with WWL. How many generator or carbon monoxide related injuries or deaths have there been since then?
Sure. So, Dr. Nichols, Chief Nelson.
Sure. So certainly this morning, the call that we responded to had 8 persons that were impacted. And then yesterday we responded to a call where there were approximately 5 individuals, one of which was a death that was presumed to be due to carbon monoxide. And that has not been confirmed by the coroner, but just based on the pre-hospital information, that was the suspicion.
WDSU?
My question might be for FEMA, but how many blue tarps or tarps in general do you have available for?
Okay. Colin can.
We have an initial, we'll have an initial deployment of 8,800, almost 10,000, and we'll continue to pursue those as well. And I'd like to address with the generator thing. We talked a lot. We talked a lot with Ken Graham, who's director of National Weather Center, and he brought up a really good point, and that is that last year during Hurricane Laura, more people died from generator and carbon monoxide poisoning than died from the storm itself, which was a Category 4. So I think it's just really, if you see us hitting on this, it's because it's a thing for sure, and more people have gotten generators on their homes or have purchased portable generators, which seem to be the main issue. And they really need to be, far away from your home and not under kind of any eaves, and also careful in refueling them because they are causing people injuries and fatalities.
WGNO. So, Mayor, this is a question about both. Talk about the gradual process of getting power restored to all of the world. Do we know a ballpark of exactly when that will be? Do you mean moves down?
No. I'm trying to listen.
Sorry.
So, okay.
So what you say this is a gradual process.
Right.
Like, what is a ballpark? Because there are people who go days or weeks
Mm-hmm.
without power. What can they truly expect to be back to full power again?
Sure. So hopefully not weeks. I think the progress that we are seeing on the ground has really moved progress forward that we haven't even seen in the past. I think in terms of the prioritization is around where we have the distribution from the transmission to the distribution. Clearly, based on the efforts of Entergy in the New Orleans East areas where we're seeing progress, but the good news is that they can focus on distribution as they have been consistently focusing on transmission. The assessments that Deanna spoke about will give us eventually a more thorough idea of when we can expect power to be restored throughout the city. It's always been gradual. There's nothing new here. There's never been one switch and the whole city is lit. That's never happened. And so we will go, as they mentioned, they will go, Entergy, from substation, to substation. That will be their direction or their approach. When the city receives more detailed information from Entergy, we would be able to share a more of an aggressive timeline. I don't have that timeline for you at this time. However, we can and we have seen demonstrated progress. And I expect to see more of that throughout the day, into the evening, and of course tomorrow. Ms. Deanna, anything that you need to add on this? Or Ramsey?
The one thing that I would add is that as the damage assessment is completed, so as I understand it, if we get to about 90% of the damage assessment, then we have a higher confidence level that we can build out that schedule. So we're not quite done with the damage assessment, and as soon as we have that information, we'll be able to, and we will inform the public what our goals of trying to get everyone back. I also need to, Ramsey said, don't come back until it's safe. I have to remind everybody, if they have not already signed up for text from Entergy, sign up, and you can go to our Entergy.com website, www.entergy.com. Look for updates on Hurricane Ida. Sign up for a text. Once you get that text, then you'll know when your house has power again.
Just a quick follow-up.
No, go ahead.
About the cooling stations and stuff and how they're operating. I know you gave addresses and the hours. What can people do if they can't get to these cooling stations? They have a hard time getting here, getting the supplies that you guys were able to get out. What can they do?
Sure. So what I would say to assess that population that cannot access, the first step would be to contact 1311 to tell us, give us that information. If you don't say something, we don't know. But the first point would be contacting 311. You can also, look, anyone can reach me by email, as residents have, and I respond, even still, in record time, as I always do. Mayor Cantrell at NOLA.gov. If you email me, if you have that ability to do so. But the first, I would say, is 311. Log that with our operators, and then we will get that information and be able to respond accordingly. But we have our RTA, which will be our first, I would say, line in terms of providing that resource to the public. But it will only be if that need is there, as we have a plan utilizing our buses. We have paratransit as well. That's in full operation. But again, if you let us know that is a problem, we will address it accordingly. Right now, that has not bubbled up as an issue, as we're focusing, throughout the city of New Orleans and being as holistic and comprehensive as possible.
Jessica Williams,
This is a question about tarps. You guys mentioned that you had 8,800. Are those going to be deployed tomorrow at the cooling centers, or is there a timeline on how quickly those are going to be?
Sure. So, we were expecting the tarps. We have 8,800. We'll be working in partnership with the New Orleans City Council members to ensure that there is a citywide distribution plan. You do have to give your address, name and address, so that it's logged appropriately, and we know that those tarps will go to address the addresses that have been provided. Colin, anything else? Yes.
For Orleans Parish only?
Well, the tarps that we have, meaning the city of New Orleans, they are for Orleans Parish residents only.
Okay, going to Sarah with Gambit.
I have a question for Entergy. As has happened in the past, are customers going to see increased bills or higher fees in the aftermath of this?
Well, we'll have to see. I don't have an answer to that. I guess we're going to have to take stock of what federal funds maybe we can get, what infrastructure funds we can get to help us on the transmission. We are working with our partners in the mayor's office, our congressional delegation, as well as the White House. They have paid a lot of attention to this disaster, and so we're hoping that we'll be able to supplement some of what is the impact of this storm, so that it doesn't all go to the ratepayers.
Last question, Aubrey from WWNO.
I know we have polling stations for people during the day. If someone calls 311 and says they're in need of shelter beyond those hours, what is your answer to those people?
So in regards to sheltering, it is medical special needs right now, and we're working to stand up a much larger operation at the convention center. That is not online at the time, but if there is a need, the 311 will be able to assess the needs of our individuals' specific needs and address them accordingly with that individual. You should know that we, the city, and our health department has been strategically calling our people that are on our registry, and even those that have been recently added, as they have called 311 and have been added to that, their needs are being met. We'll continue to respond accordingly and pivot as necessary, but right now it is focusing on medical special needs, but again, working in partnership with the state and federal partners to have a more robust operation stood up at the convention center, and that is in place, meaning the work is happening today for hopefully a full activation on tomorrow.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Right. Thank you all very much, and we just appreciate you.